You're always available, always helpful, always strong, always the good one. But inside, you're exhausted. Not because life is too much, but because you've been playing a role you never chose. They needed you to be the fixer, the peacemaker, the reliable one, the one who doesn't fall apart. And so you became it. You wore the mask. You made it look easy. But now the mask is cracking, and underneath it, you're not sure who you are without it. In this video, you'll learn how to recognize the role they assigned you, how to step out of the performance, and how to finally be someone real. Part 1. What does assigned role mean? You didn't choose it. You inherited it, not through words, but through emotional pressure. You became who they needed, not who you were. The assigned role is an emotional job. Every family system has unspoken gaps: the emotionally unstable parent, the silent partner, the unprocessed trauma, the dysfunction no one talks about, and someone, usually the most sensitive, fills that gap, not by force, but by adaptation. You became the caretaker, achiever, hero, peacemaker, invisible one, always available one, not because you wanted to, because the system required it. This role wasn't based on who you are, but what they couldn't hold. Your good behavior might have been their need for control. Your maturity might have been their emotional absence. Your calmness might have been a reaction to chaos you couldn't name. The role formed because you sensed what the system needed to survive, and you became it, to keep connection, to keep peace, to keep love. Assigned role equals survival strategy, not identity. It helped you stay safe. It helped you feel seen. It gave you purpose. But now, it's exhausting because you're no longer in that system. But the role is still running, and until you see it for what it is, you'll keep living for a script you didn't write. Part 2. How roles become identity. At first, it was just a response, a way to feel safe, to feel needed, to stay close. But over time, it became who you thought you were. You repeated it so often. It became reflex. You said yes before thinking, smiled when uncomfortable, fixed what wasn't yours to fix, swallowed words you should have spoken, not because it felt right, but because it felt familiar. That's how roles stick, through repetition, not truth. You learned to be who they responded to. You were praised when you were strong, ignored when you were vulnerable, rewarded for helping, shamed for needing. So you adapted, and every response they gave shaped who you were allowed to be. Eventually, you stopped asking, "What do I feel? What do I want? What do I need?" and replaced it with, "What keeps the peace? What keeps me accepted? What keeps me useful?" You confused safety with self. The role kept you safe, but it also kept you small. Because a role is a mask, and a mask always comes with limits. The strong one can't ask for help. The caretaker can't fall apart. The good one can't disappoint anyone. The quiet one can't take up space. So when you start breaking the role, you don't just feel uncomfortable. You feel like you're betraying yourself. But you're not. You're just betraying the role. So your real self can finally emerge. You're not the role. You're the person beneath it. And you don't owe that role your loyalty, just because it kept you safe once. Safety is survival. Identity is freedom. And freedom only starts when you stop confusing who you had to be with who you actually are. Part 3. 5 signs you're stuck in a role. You think you're being responsible, supportive, mature, helpful, but deep down, you're drained, disoriented, disconnected. Not because you're doing too much, but because you're doing it from a role, not from truth. Here's how to know. 1. You feel guilty when you choose yourself. You say no, and immediately feel like you've hurt someone. You rest, but your mind runs through who might need you. You express how you feel, and then apologize for being too much. That's not conscience. That's conditioning. The role said, you exist for others, and now choosing yourself feels like betrayal. 2. You're afraid of letting people down. More than you're afraid of losing yourself, you'll stretch your limits, bite your tongue, swallow your needs, not because it feels good, but because it protects an identity. I'm the strong one. I'm the dependable one. I never cause problems. You keep peace externally while burning out internally. 3. You don't know who you are outside the role. When no one needs you, you feel lost. When you're not being productive, you feel worthless. When someone says relax, you feel anxious. Because the role gave you identity, and without it, you don't know where to stand. You confuse purpose with performance. 4. You struggle to receive without earning. Compliments? You deflect. Help? You downplay it. Rest? You feel like you have to deserve it. Because the role taught you. You only have value when you're useful. So now, love feels suspicious, kindness feels heavy, support feels unsafe, and you don't know how to just be. 5. You attract people who benefit from the role. The caretaker attracts the emotionally unavailable. The peacekeeper attracts chaos. The strong one attracts the emotionally dependent. The good one attracts manipulators, not because you're weak, but because your role makes you predictable. And the wrong people know exactly how to use that predictability. Bottom line, if you constantly feel tired, unseen, unexpressed, you're not broken, you're over-identified. You've become the role, and it's time to step out of the costume. Part 4. Why you don't owe anyone that role. You were never supposed to carry that weight forever. You just didn't know. You were allowed to put it down. They needed you to play the role. But that doesn't mean you owe it to them. They needed stability. You became the peacekeeper. They needed someone reliable. You became the responsible one. They needed emotional support. You became the caretaker. And in exchange, you got love, approval, belonging. But now, you're still playing the role, long after the stage went dark. Love that requires a role isn't love. It's transaction. If they only respect you when you serve, if they only listen when you're soft, if they only value you when you perform, that's not love. That's dependency masked as affection. And staying in the role doesn't preserve connection. It just preserves the system, a system that runs on your self-abandonment. You don't exist to keep the system stable. They may resist when you step out. They may guilt you. They may say, "You've changed. You're not like before. You've become selfish." But truth is, you're just becoming real. And when people are used to the role, your authenticity feels like betrayal. That's not your fault. That's the system losing control. Releasing the role isn't rejection, it's reclamation. You're not rejecting them. You're returning to yourself. You're not abandoning responsibility. You're choosing responsibility for your own identity, because the longer you stay in the role, the more you betray the version of you that never got to breathe. You can love them and still leave the role. You can care dash, but stop performing. You can show up, but not as a character. You can honor what they gave you without reenacting what broke them. Freedom begins the moment you stop proving you're worthy of staying in the script. Part 5. How to step out of the role. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to prove it. You just need to stop feeding it. Because every role survives on your unconscious agreement. Here's how to start exiting quietly, powerfully. 1. Name the role. You can't leave what you haven't recognized. Ask yourself, what did they need me to be? What did I become so they'd feel okay? What was I praised for that never felt like me? Name it clearly. The strong one, the peacemaker, the fixer, the responsible child. The one who never needs. Once it's named, you no longer confuse it with your identity. 2. Catch the activation moments. The role kicks in automatically. Watch for it. When someone's in chaos, do you rush in? When there's conflict, do you soften your truth? When you feel tired, do you keep performing anyway? Those are trigger points. Notice. Pause. Don't feed the reflex. Because every pause is a crack in the role's control. 3. Ask. If I weren't playing this role, what would I do? This breaks the script. You shift from default to decision. Would I still say yes? Would I stay silent? Would I try to fix this? Or would I walk away, speak up, or rest? That one question opens the door to a new identity. 4. Tolerate the guilt that follows. Leaving the role feels wrong at first. You'll feel guilty, exposed, even selfish. But that's not truth. That's just your nervous system reacting to unfamiliar freedom. Hold the line, let the guilt rise, and walk through it anyway. Because what's on the other side is your actual self. Final CTA. You weren't born to perform. You weren't born to carry the system. You weren't born to be the version they needed you to be. You were born to be whole, but wholeness is impossible when you're stuck inside a mask. The role helped you survive. It kept the peace. It earned approval. It bought love. But now, it's costing you yourself. And the moment you see that, you can walk away. Not with anger, not with blame, but with quiet certainty. I am not that role anymore. I don't have to explain why. And I'm done proving I'm worthy through performance. From now on, you don't shrink to keep the peace. You don't please to feel safe. You don't disappear to be loved. You choose. You show up. You stay real. Even if it makes others uncomfortable. Especially if it sets you free.